Everyone, let's take a breath together. Close your eyes for a moment, and feel the intelligence that's breathing you. The same intelligence that hung the stars, formed galaxies, and orchestrated the beating of your heart before you were even aware of it. That's not random, that's not accidental, that is God, divine intelligence, eternally intentional, and I want to remind you tonight, God always finishes what he starts. If you're still here, it means he's not done. We often get caught in the illusion that life is fragmented, that delay is denial, or that silence means abandonment. But what if the delay is design? What if the waiting is the preparation? What if the silence is just the moment before the crescendo? You are not forgotten, you are not behind, you are becoming. See, we tend to look at our lives as linear, a beginning, a middle, an end, but God doesn't see like that. He exists outside time, he is the master of process. And when he initiates a transformation in you, when he starts a healing, a calling, a change, he doesn't walk away halfway through, no. He's faithful to complete what he began. But here's the catch, most people quit too soon. They collapse back into their old identity, their old habits, their old stories, because they don't see the breakthrough yet. They think the pain is permanent, but the pain is often the labor. The tension is the contraction before birth. The unknown, that's where creation happens, because listen, you can't have resurrection without death. You can't get to new without letting go of old. When you're in the dark, it's easy to think the light isn't coming. But let me ask you, when a seed is buried underground, does that mean it's dead? Or is it planted? See, this is where trust comes in. Not passive waiting. No active alignment. Real faith is holding the vision when the evidence says otherwise. It's being more loyal to the future in your spirit than to the history in your mind. You can't create a new future if you're rehearsing the past. You can't walk into promise while clinging to patterns. So if God has called you, if he planted a dream, an idea, a healing, a change in your heart, then you are being moved toward that outcome. It already exists in the field of potential. You are not chasing it. You are aligning with it. And when your energy, your belief, and your daily actions begin to reflect that trust, everything shifts. The story is not over. In fact, this moment, this very breath, is the evidence that God is still writing. Still refining, still building. Let him work in the unseen. Let him reorder what you cannot understand yet, because timing is not just chronology. It's alignment. What you call delay might just be the divine setting the stage so that when your breakthrough comes, you're ready to carry it. So keep showing up, keep loving, keep imagining, keep believing. The universe is not random. Your journey is not an accident. You're being shaped by the same intelligence that started the story, and it will finish it. Your job is not to control the timing. Your job is to trust it, because God always finishes what he starts, and your story is not over. God always finishes what he starts. This is more than a comforting phrase. It's a principle of divine order. Everything God initiates carries within it the blueprint of completion. Nothing he begins is left undone. In the same way that the DNA of a tree is encoded inside the seed, the full expression of your life is contained in the whisper that called you forward. The divine never starts something to abandon it midway. That includes you, your healing, your purpose, your process, your growth. If you're still breathing, it means the process is still active. You are not a discarded draft. You are a living, unfolding masterpiece in motion. This truth challenges how we perceive time and progress. We often assume that if something is hard or delayed, it must be broken or wrong. But divine timing isn't rushed. It's not based on your deadlines, it's based on alignment. On when all the conditions, seen and unseen, are ready to carry what God is building. Think about creation, nothing rushed, everything in sequence. Everything intentional, the same is true for you. Even when you can't see movement, God is still working. What looks like stillness might be structuring. What feels like silence might be saturation. A foundation is being laid in depths you may not yet perceive. You might feel like you're in the middle, stuck between what was and what could be, but the middle is not the end, it's where transformation happens. It's the sacred in-between, the forging ground for faith. And in this place, it's easy to believe that the story is off course, but if God authored it, he will complete it. He cannot contradict his nature. He does not leave things half-formed. He does not abandon what he begins. Delay is not denial, it's divine design. In a world addicted to immediacy, we've come to fear delay as a sign that something's gone wrong. But what if the waiting isn't a punishment? What if it's precision? God doesn't operate on human timelines. He operates on eternal intelligence. What feels like a hold up in your life might actually be a setup for something greater than you can currently comprehend. Delay creates space, and in that space things mature. You mature, circumstances align, people move into position, resources gather, environments shift. Sometimes you are not being withheld from the promise. You are being prepared to hold it without it breaking you. When we only measure success by speed, we miss the sacred nature of divine timing. There's a reason fruit takes time to ripen. There's a reason the earth doesn't produce a harvest overnight. There's a gestation period for every vision, every breakthrough, every transformation. It's not just about what you're moving toward. It's about who you're becoming in the process. The delay forces you to deepen your trust, to refine your identity, to release what no longer serves the next version of you. Without this internal alignment, the very thing you desire might arrive too early and collapse under the weight of your unpreparedness. We confuse silence with absence, but just because God is quiet doesn't mean he's distant. He's often most active in the background during what feels like stillness. Delay gives you room to listen more closely, to shift your energy, to let go of your timeline and align with his. The divine design is not random, it's surgical. Every second is accounted for. What seems like slowness from our limited perspective might be perfect rhythm from heaven's view. You are not forgotten, you are becoming. In moments when life feels heavy, when prayers seem unanswered, and when the path ahead looks blurred, it's easy to believe that you've been overlooked. But divine intelligence doesn't forget what it creates. You are not invisible to God, you are in process. Becoming is often a quiet, unseen evolution. It doesn't always come with signs or applause. It looks like ordinary days, internal struggles, moments of stillness, and decisions made in private. But in all of it, something deep is unfolding. You are being shaped, not stalled. There is a difference. To become something new, you must sometimes feel undone. The parts of you that no longer align with the future God has planned are being dismantled, not because you are broken, but because you are being rebuilt. And that process can feel like disorientation. You might feel like you're losing your grip, but what's really happening is that you're shedding the weight of an identity that can't follow you into your next season. Becoming is not about perfection. It's about alignment, bringing who you are into harmony with who you're meant to be. This process can be misunderstood, even by you. You might wonder why things aren't moving faster, why others seem ahead, why your journey feels so uniquely hard. But the truth is, what God is building in you may require a foundation deeper than others can see. You are not forgotten. You are being focused, refined, and calibrated for something that fits your design, not someone else's timeline. Just because the world can't see your growth doesn't mean it's not happening. Becoming often requires isolation before elevation, stillness before movement, and silence before revelation. You are in motion, even when it doesn't feel like it. Pain is the preparation for purpose. We are conditioned to avoid discomfort, to view pain as a sign that something is wrong. But in the realm of transformation, pain is not the enemy. It's the signal that something new is being born. Just like muscles tear before they grow stronger, your spirit stretches through struggle. Pain has a way of forcing you to confront what's hidden, to release what's no longer useful, and to surrender control where it was never yours to begin with. It's not punishment, it's positioning. It's not the end, it's the forging ground. Purpose isn't something you stumble into by accident. It's something you're shaped for, often through fire. And that fire refines more than your circumstances. It purifies your perspective, your intentions, your character. What once seemed important fades, and what truly matters becomes clear. Pain awakens a deeper layer of awareness, a greater dependence on the divine, and an inner strength you didn't know was there. It creates capacity, emotional, spiritual, even physical, so that when your purpose calls, you're not just ready to step into it, but to sustain it. We often want the promise without the process. We want clarity without the chaos. But it's often the very chaos that chisels us into the person capable of carrying what we've asked for. There is a kind of growth that only happens in the dark, a kind of wisdom that only emerges through pressure. Pain presses you into the presence of God in ways comfort never will. It humbles you, it opens you, it grounds you, and as much as we resist it, pain often becomes the most honest teacher, the most faithful guide. It prepares the soil of your soul for the seeds of your calling to take root and bear lasting fruit. Real faith is loyalty to your future, not your past. Faith isn't just belief, it's allegiance. It's choosing every day to stay loyal to the vision God placed in your spirit, even when your circumstances still look like yesterday. The past has a powerful pull. It's familiar, it's predictable, and it's wrapped in memories, both painful and comforting. But if you're constantly rehearsing who you used to be, there's no room to embody who you're becoming. Faith means leaning forward. It means anchoring your identity not in what has already happened, but in what's still unfolding. When you're loyal to your past, you make decisions based on fear, regret, or limitation. You shrink to fit the patterns that once kept you safe, but now keep you stuck. But when you're loyal to your future, you start moving as if the promise is already real. You shift your mindset. You take risks aligned with vision, not history. You speak in alignment with where you're going, not just what you've been through. That's not delusion. It's spiritual agreement. You're declaring, through thought, word, and action, that you believe God is who He says He is, and you are who He called you to be. Loyalty to the future looks like letting go of excuses rooted in the past. It means challenging the stories that say this is just who I am, or nothing ever works out. Real faith is not passive. It's creative, generative, active. It pulls the unseen into the seen by the way you show up today. It's not just believing that something good might happen someday, it's embodying the reality that it already exists in God's timing, and you're aligning with it now. You become a match for what you've been praying for, because your loyalty has shifted from what was to what will be. The unknown is the birthplace of creation. It's the space where logic runs out and possibility begins. Most people fear the unknown because it lacks control, predictability, and certainty, but the truth is nothing new is ever born from what is already familiar. Every breakthrough, every revelation, every transformation happens outside the bounds of what you already know. The unknown is not a void, it's a womb. It's where divine potential waits to be activated through faith, imagination, and alignment with something greater than yourself. When you step into the unknown, you are not stepping into emptiness. You are stepping into the space where God moves freely. This is where human effort ends and divine intelligence takes over. It's where you stop trying to force outcomes and start becoming available for transformation. Your nervous system might interpret it as risk, but your spirit recognizes it as the place of becoming. The unknown challenges your identity, asks you to release control, and invites you to surrender your timeline in exchange for alignment with divine timing. Most people stay stuck not because they lack faith, but because they won't let go of what's familiar. They try to create new outcomes while staying emotionally tethered to old patterns. But creation doesn't happen that way. It requires a disruption of old energy, a willingness to enter the mystery without a guarantee. The unknown is the only space where miracles make sense, because miracles don't happen where everything is calculated. They happen where the heart is open, the mind is surrendered, and the soul says yes, even when the map is blank. This space is sacred because it forces you to grow, to trust, and to evolve into the version of you that's required to carry the vision you've been given. You can't step into promise with old patterns. A new season requires a new structure, and transformation demands that you release the version of yourself that survived the past. Patterns are powerful. They shape how you think, feel, respond, and ultimately how you experience your life. But many of these patterns were built in response to pain, fear, disappointment, or survival. While they may have protected you once, they can now prevent you from walking fully into what God has for you. The promise is not just a place. It's a posture, a way of being, a frequency that your current patterns may not be able to carry. You cannot expect to walk in freedom while clinging to habits born in bondage. If you want to step into the future God has prepared, you must first become the kind of person who can hold it without sabotage. This requires deep internal work, bringing awareness to cycles of thought, emotional triggers, and behaviors that keep you in familiar but limiting loops. It's not enough to want the promise. You have to be willing to become someone new for it. The old identity, tied to past stories and limitations, must be laid down. Every elevation comes with a separation, not always from people, but from mentalities, excuses, and comfort zones. The longer you hold onto the old pattern, the more you delay the new outcome. Patterns are not just behaviors, they are agreements. They're unconscious contracts with a version of life that no longer fits who you're called to be. Breaking them is not about punishment, it's about preparation. It's about building new neural pathways, emotional resilience, and spiritual alignment that matches the promise you've been shown. You cannot carry a new calling in an outdated container, and the shift begins within you. You're aligning with destiny, not chasing it. So much of the anxiety people carry comes from the belief that they have to chase their purpose, pursue their calling, or fight to be seen. But destiny isn't something you chase. It's something you align with. Chasing implies that it's running from you, that it's somewhere far off, that you're behind. But the truth is, what's meant for you isn't running. It's waiting for you to meet it in the frequency of faith, obedience, and clarity. You don't need to force your future into place. You need to become a match for it. Alignment is about resonance. When your thoughts, emotions, actions, and beliefs come into agreement with the vision God has placed in your heart, you naturally begin to attract the resources, people, and opportunities connected to that vision. You stop striving and start allowing. You stop pushing and start receiving. Not because you've given up, but because you've matured into a place where your inner world reflects what you're asking for externally. This is spiritual intelligence, knowing that your job isn't to chase outcomes, but to become aligned with them so deeply that they're drawn to you. Destiny is not some distant finish line. It's a continual unfolding that responds to your inner environment. If you're in constant pursuit without inner transformation, you'll burn out chasing what would have arrived naturally through alignment. Destiny finds you when your choices match your calling. When your daily life reflects the reality of who you're becoming, you move with grace instead of desperation. You don't need to compete, compare, or perform. You need to remember who you are in God and bring your mind and heart into agreement with that truth. From that place, destiny becomes a natural extension of your being. Timing is alignment, not just chronology. We often measure success by the clock, believing that because something hasn't happened by a certain time, it means we're off course or not good enough. But divine timing doesn't operate on the same scale as human timelines. It's not about waiting for the right hour, day, or year. It's about becoming the right person at the right moment. It's not about how much time has passed, but whether you've aligned your energy, your mindset, and your actions with the future you're meant to step into. We can get caught in a trap of urgency, feeling like we have to rush or force things into existence. But true alignment takes place when we trust that the moment is already prepared for us. The universe doesn't move in haste, it moves in order, and every piece of your life is being orchestrated in harmony, even when you can't see it. What looks like waiting is often preparation. Timing isn't simply when things happen, it's about being ready when they do. If you're out of sync, you might miss the opportunity even when it's right in front of you. When you're aligned, time becomes a tool instead of an enemy. Things fall into place effortlessly because the conditions are right. This is why some people can achieve things seemingly ahead of schedule. It's not because they rushed or forced, but because they were aligned with the energy of their dream. Alignment isn't about trying harder. It's about surrendering your timetable to a higher intelligence and trusting that you're exactly where you need to be. The right opportunities, the right people, and the right moments will come in perfect order when you are aligned with your purpose rather than rushing toward it. Your story is still being written. So often, we get caught in a moment of frustration or setback and believe that this chapter defines us, that the difficulties we face are permanent, or that our mistakes have closed the book on our potential. But this couldn't be further from the truth. No matter where you are in your journey, you are not at the end. You are in the middle of an unfolding narrative that is still filled with possibilities. God is still moving, still guiding, still shaping your path. Every setback, every challenge, every detour is a part of the story. It's not the final scene. The chapters that feel the hardest may actually be the most critical ones. They are the moments that refine you, that push you past the limits you thought you had, and that expand your capacity to hold what is coming. Your growth happens in the tension between where you were and where you're going. The beauty of a story is not in the absence of conflict, but in how the character rises, transforms, and overcomes. And just because the current page may seem filled with hardship, doesn't mean the entire book will be. You are in the process of becoming someone capable of holding the future that's waiting for you. The mistakes you've made, the relationships that fell apart, the things that didn't go as planned, they're all part of a plot that is still unfolding. These moments are not the end of the story. They are the turning points that lead to breakthroughs. God has not put down his pen. Your life is still being written, and the best chapters are often the ones that come after the hardest. Keep going, keep trusting the process, because the story is not over yet.